Welcome back. Well, as I mentioned earlier in the show, there's been a major development in the United States with Donald Trump's tariffs blocked by the nation's Court of International Trade. Lawyers for the Trump administration have notified the court that they will appeal this decision, but it's left the tariffs in limbo. Joining me now is former Foreign Minister Alexander Downer. Alexander, thank you so much for joining me on the show. What does this mean essentially for the tariffs? Because they've actually been deemed unconstitutional.
Right. So it will put on hold the tariffs as the administration goes to the Federal Court of Appeal, and depending on the outcome of the appeal court hearing, they could go to the Supreme Court. So it could take a little bit of time. But frankly, I think it's good news because the president should only under American law be able to impose tariffs without congressional approval in an emergency situation, and to claim that because the US has a trade deficit with a range of countries, that's an emergency situation is a bit far-fetched, particularly, by the way, as they don't have a trade deficit with all countries, including Australia. They have a trade surplus with us.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, we had tariffs put on hold here in Australia. We had tariffs put on us here in Australia, so we'll be waiting to see what happens. Do you think that the Trump administration would, though, see this as a setback? Is it a setback for them? This was an executive order that Donald Trump was very adamant on.
Yeah, I mean, it is a setback for the administration, and above all, it's a setback for Donald Trump because he's a great believer in tariffs. And as you can tell from my tone, although I'm not particularly an opponent of President Trump, I think he's wrong on tariffs. So I'm delighted that this court has put a halt to these tariffs. I mean, of course, the president could go to the Congress and ask for congressional support. That would be time-consuming. And whether the Congress would support tariffs, I'm not sure. I mean, the Republicans mainly do support tariffs, and so do the Democrats. So when I've been in America, I've been quite struck by the Democrats' condemnation of President Trump's tariffs, but them saying, but we're in favor of tariffs as well, just not President Trump's tariffs. It's not very convincing, that. It's just party politics.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not convincing. You're right. Now, look, speaking of Trump, the US president has also addressed the war between Russia and Ukraine, as he seemed to, I think, tone down his rhetoric against Russia, despite warning Putin that he was playing with fire just days ago. But now he's downplayed the possibility of new sanctions on Moscow. This is what he said.
I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. To find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently.
What's Trump's game here, do you think? Because the rhetoric in the last week has been flip-flopping from one to the other.
Well, I mean, he's trying to get President Putin to agree to a ceasefire. So he has to play that as he hears it. So there's a lot of information that we don't have access to, that the White House does have access to. They will have a good idea of what's going on in the Kremlin and what the thinking and for that matter, the debates in the Kremlin are about a ceasefire and the circumstances of a ceasefire. So the public comments that President Trump makes are influenced by a lot of which we don't know. I mean, I would cut him a bit of slack here. He has to find a way of getting Putin to agree to this ceasefire. Zelensky's already agreed to it. And if he can get Putin to agree to a ceasefire, that will be a wonderful thing for human life. But can he achieve it? We don't know. He has to have up his sleeve maximum pressure, maximum sanctions to impose on Russia if Putin doesn't agree to the ceasefire. But, I mean, we just don't know where Putin is at this stage.
No, we don't. And look, I mean, I guess we can hope for a ceasefire. We'll see what happens. Before we let you go, I just want to get your thoughts. The shadow cabinet was revealed yesterday by Susan Lee. What are your thoughts on the lineup and what's next for the coalition?
Well, first and foremost, I'm delighted that the coalition has reformed. It was madness for the National Party to want to break with the Liberals. I mean, how long do they want to remain in opposition for 20 or 30 years if they're going to do that? Secondly, look, I know many of the people who are in the shadow cabinet, but I don't know all of them. The main thing for members of the shadow cabinet is to do what we're doing now, to talk in the media, to make their case, to make their arguments, not just against the government, though, yeah, that's an important part of their role, but to be putting forward their alternative vision for Australia. They really need to get on with doing that. And if I had one criticism of the former shadow cabinet, it was far too few of them didn't speak out in the media. I mean, don't go into politics if you don't want to speak in the media. But otherwise, if you're in opposition and you're on the front bench, other than servicing your electorate, what else are you going to do? You can't make decisions. You're not engaging with the public service. You need to get out into the media and communicate with the Australian public, tell them what's wrong with the government and how you would do a much better job. And you should do that every day of the week. So I hope they do that.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to courage and conviction, which, as you said, was lacking. Good to speak with you, Alexander Downer. Thank you very much for your time this evening on the show.